favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Yo, yo, yo! He's back.
Welcome on in, off the bench, Chatterbox Sports, ESPN, 1410 Dayton. What a day. What a spectacular day. Listen, I was going to come in yesterday, but Reed said, you should probably take one more day. He heard the sound of my voice. So I'm going to try my best. We're going to put on, this is similar, just like the Jordan flu game. Except instead of me being a good basketball player, I'm a mediocre talk show host. That's what's going to be going on today. We've got a packed show for you. We've got a show loaded up to the brim for you today. Listen, we're going to be talking NFL, as always. We got some contract extension news. We're going to be talking about your Cincinnati Reds. What a fun subject that will be. We've got Jacob and Jimmy over there smiling. They're ready to talk about the Tigers, how they just suck. We're talking about Alabama football today. I'm pretty sure that's on the docket. Alabama basketball maybe too.
Tide hoops, baby.
Casey's FC Cincinnati Warriors.
Yes.
They fought gallantly yesterday. They lost. But we'll talk about that in a minute as well. What a day, boys. What a glory. The sun is shining. Does it get much better than this?
No, it doesn't. It's a beautiful day in Hamilton, Ohio, but why do I say that? Because they all are. Every day I wake up and drive here, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Every day is spectacular. I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today. And again, I'm going to fight through this. We're all going to fight through it together. I'm probably going to be looking at the chat more than I usually do. So if you have something funny in there, make it good. Make it good, and I'll read it out loud just to get some opinions flowing.
Well,
does my voice sound nasally right now? It's coming off in my head nasally.
It's a little stopped up, but you're doing great.
Yeah,
you're doing great. Just keep your head down and power through.
Again, it's hard to. It's perception. It's a hard perception. Yeah. So it was a fun Memorial Day. So we'll talk about Memorial Day since I was not here for the past couple of days.
How was your Memorial?
Friday night was very fun. I saw a big Reds win.
It's a good time.
Saturday night, another Reds win. I was on top of the moon. Sunday, woke up really early, played some golf. I don't know if you guys ever been out there, but in Florence, there's a World of Golf.
Oh.
And they have an 18-hole golf course.
Italy?
It's a lot of par threes. It's very hilly.
No, Florence, Italy.
Oh, Florence, Italy? No, I was not in Italy.
Florence, y'all.
No, yeah, it was right by the Florence Y'all factory. And basically, I played 18 holes, and after that, probably around 5 o'clock, I started feeling something in the old throat. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. But by Sunday night, around midnight, I had collapsed. It was over. I don't know. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know where this disease came from. But it was terrible. I'm still coming back from it right now. I'm still fighting through it. But Monday morning on Memorial Day, the day that was supposed to be fun, I was supposed to frolic in the fields with fireworks and cold drinks. I was stuck in my bed, in my room, contaminating my entire house. But we're through it now. What a special weekend it was. The Reds swept the Dodgers, and now they played the Cardinals, right, Casey? Is that right?
They played the Cardinals. So that's over with.
Did they win, or?
They lost the series, Elliot.
They won one.
They won the first one.
They did. That's good. How was your guys' week?
It was good. It was good. A lot of Reds misery, and not a whole lot else.
Yeah. I mean, I had a good weekend. The Tigers won more games than they lost, so.
That's good. Anytime they can do that, I'm really happy for you.
But I can tell that you've given up on the Reds season again because you're going straight back for the Bengals gear.
I don't
Whenever
think
you
I've
do that.
It's a good way to keep track of where Elliot stands.
Yeah, he wore a Bengals T-shirt to the Reds game that he obviously thought they were going to lose.
Here's the thing.
We're just burying Elliot to start the show today.
Here's the thing. I was like, it was fun sweeping the Dodgers, but you can't realistically say that this team's good.
I thought we could. There was about 48 hours in there where I thought we were
it was
a good
fun.
baseball team.
Don't
Like,
play
it
that
was-
game now. Don't play that game.
Don't
I'll
get me
never
wrong.
forget how I felt Friday night. after
I
that
played
game.
into the shtick. I was the Reds World Series bound after you sweep the Dodgers. But let's be very serious. The Cincinnati Reds are still not a very good baseball team. The Cardinals aren't. People forget the Cardinals aren't good either.
Oh, no.
And
Cardinals have won 12 of 15.
Really?
Yep.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I don't see them in the postseason, but good for them. I hope the Reds can go on a similar run, just as good. I
nice.
doubt it
Probably
happens,
won't.
but
No, they probably won't.
Yeah, Reds offense is just so bad. People think giving up 3 earned runs in a game by a starting pitcher is like the end of the world. Frankie Montas pitched pretty well yesterday, if not great yesterday. So,
It's just like one of those games where like you go down a couple runs and
well, when the team
Yeah,
can't hit the ball out
team's
of the
over,
infield,
game's
it gets
over.
tough to put runs on the board.
correct.
but you're still watching because like what if? You know?
Right, yeah, right.
Correct. Let's go. And so speaking of that, let's go over the headlines today. And we'll go over the big Reds loss. Shout out to the Reds. They lose the series to the Cardinals. They lost yesterday 5-3. As Jacob just said, Frankie Montas, he pitched pretty well. He threw 107 balls, 6 innings, 6 hits, only gave up 3 earned. He got into a lot of jams, I'd
One
say.
of those was a botched relay.
True, and that is true. Shout out to our boy Luke Maley. But yeah, Frankie Montas pitched great, and the starting pitching has not been an issue. They've been absolutely phenomenal, pretty much all the way around. I can count on one hand the amount of truly bad starts we've had this season, and that's a really good place to be. The offense, however, when you get no hit consistently through the first 5 innings of every single game, gonna be a problem. The Reds did manage 8 hits yesterday, and I'll talk about that in a second. Brent Suter and Farmer, they did not help the cause. They gave up 2 big runs each, including walking in a run. Not ideal. The Reds' offense, again, they did all their damage late, but it was, I'd argue, too late. Ellie had his first multi-hit game in over a week. Nick Martini had a multi-hit game as well. TJ Friedel got on base twice, if there's a positive there. I would say his at-bats still don't look great, but he was able to draw a couple walks. So shout out to our boy TJ Friedel. The Reds are back at it tomorrow at 2:20 in Chicago against the Cubs. It's Graham Ashcraft taking on Javier Assad. Assad is entering play with a 2.17
But
ERA.
you know what? Graham Ashcraft's going to go out there and he's going to try really hard.
Here's the thing about
He's
Graham
gonna have good
Ashcraft.
stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, he is gonna have good
stuff.
stuff. You can see how hard he's trying. It's
Bulldog.
the effort that he shows. You notice it,
Absolutely.
and that's what you're gonna get from Graham. And he's probably gonna go 6 innings, give up 3 earned runs. So the Reds are gonna be in the game. Will they be no hit again through the first 5 innings?
It'd be pretty Reds to turn this offense around and put up some runs on Javier Assad, one of the best pitchers in the entire National League so far this year.
That would be fun. That would be fun. We'll talk more Reds here in the coming segments. Around the league, Mariners, they win 2-1 over the Astros in 10 innings. The Yankees, they win 2-1 over the Angels. Rockies, they take the series over Cleveland. Shout out to them. Blue Jays, they sweep the White Sox, winning 3-1. I think the White Sox have lost 10 in a row. The Brewers roughed up Shoto Imanaga. I think that's how I say that last name.
Yeah.
8 hits, 7 earned runs. Cubs fall 10-6. That's Reed's guy, and maybe potentially a Cy Young winner.
Brings
but
his ERA up to around 1.5.
yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? But good for the Brewers. They win that series pretty easily. Royals, they win 6-1 over the Twins. The Nationals, they lead the series over the Braves 2-1. Heading into the finale today, they won 7-2 yesterday. The Dodgers, now this is an interesting one. The Dodgers crushed the Mets last night 10-3. Jorge Lopez was ejected in that game. He's a Met. He was ejected, tossed his glove into the stands after an ejection. And then in the post-game press conference, when discussing what happened and if he regretted the decision, he said, quote, "I didn't regret it. I'm playing for one of the worst teams in the whole effing MLB." He was released shortly after.
Within the hour.
What a story.
Within like the
Unbelievable.
half hour. I think
And-
it was like 25 minutes
And
later.
one of the craziest parts that keeps getting brushed over is he wasn't ejected by the home plate ump. He was ejected by the third place umpire
Oh my
for a
God.
quick quip, it seemed like, after a bad call on a checked swing. So I really want to know what he said to the third base umpire to get him thrown out. Because maybe I'm forgetting something, but I've never seen a third base umpire throw out a pitcher without like a face-to-face interaction like we saw with Bryce Harper a couple years ago, walking all the way down the line. So that was completely unique, and it gets brushed over because he said he played for the worst effing team in the entire league.
And one other thing on top of it, too, the reporter who asked the question, gave him a chance to clarify, like maybe if there was a language barrier and he meant to say teammate, but he doubled down and said, no, I meant team.
How about that guy?
That's good. You have no choice but to DFA him, right? Like absolutely no choice.
There was literally no other scenario where that guy was in the Mets uniform today. And by the way, the Mets, he's not wrong. I mean, he's not wrong. The Mets have lost, I believe, 14 of their last 18. Tough. They have 7 wins, I believe, in the month of May. Good luck to the Mets. They were doing really good, and they have fallen off a cliff. The Marlins, they crushed the Padres 9-1, and the Pirates obliterate the Tigers in Game 2 of the doubleheader. Paul Skeens dials up 9 strikeouts on his birthday. 10-2 final.
What about Game 1? Doesn't matter to you.
I didn't see Game 1.
Game 1. Well,
what happened in Game 1?
Game 1, the Tigers won 8-0, and Tarek Skubal pitched 7 scoreless innings, as he does pretty much every time he goes out on the mound, because he's the best pitcher in the league.
But is he dating Livy Dunn?
No, he's not.
Then I don't want to hear anything about
it.
NHL. Oilers, they went down 2-0 yesterday, but they won 5-2. I feel like our Dallas Stars, Casey, do that quite frequently. They take an early lead, and then they switch it, and they choke away.
Your Dallas Stars.
That's right.
Connor McDavid. Reed came on the show and famously said, I'm not scared of Connor McDavid, and you shouldn't be either. Well, he has, I think, 6 points in 4 games in this series. So,
I mean, Dallas is still going to win the series.
We'll see.
With ease.
We will see. Series is tied 2-2. MLS. Here we go, Casey. This is your shining moment.
My shining
FC
moment.
Cincinnati lost 2-0 to the Fighting Nashvilles. FC's offense was non-existent, and the defense, as of late, they've been getting carved up. Any thoughts?
Any thoughts on it? I mean, to be fair, this is their final game before they go on an 18-day break. I believe some of the players are going to the men's national team for, I don't know exactly what it is, but they are leaving. So this break is being taken by, I think, all of MLS for a while. They were just already in Cabo. Their minds were already there. Like, they were already taking their break. The team just did not play well yesterday, like, at all. Our offense, which had been improving quite a bit, looked non-existent yesterday. Those guys, Acosta, Kelsey, Oreno, all of them just disappeared. Defensively, they're giving up stuff that just right up through the middle, like right through the heart of the defense. They were just done already. They were on their break. So unfortunately, that snaps their 7-game win streak. I won't be seeing a 12-game win streak, unfortunately, for FC probably, which is just tough. I was really hoping to see that. What's the win counter at?
It's
Jimmy?
up there.
It's up there. Just put it up there. Yeah.
It's at 1-0.
I didn't even notice it.
It was at 7 yesterday.
It was
Casey
at
said he
7.
can't-
I was so looking forward to it just being full of W's.
Yeah, Casey said he can't even imagine what it would look like with 12 W's. Can't even imagine it.
Yeah, FCC, shout out to them in their 12-month-long season. They'll be back at it, I'm sure, real soon.
So this is the first of 5 or 7 2-week breaks in the
Yeah,
middle of the season?
they have a lot of them.
Good teams deserve those, though.
That's true.
The only-
That's true. I'll tell you
Best
what.
league in the country.
You're right. Well,
I
Best
do have
soccer
one-
league in the country.
that's right.
I do have one thing to say. Luckily, they didn't really lose any standings on the table. Inter Miami also lost yesterday. So good for them.
Take that, Messi.
This loss did not hurt
Messi.
them significantly.
Okay,
Messi loves Mason.
that's good for everybody. NFL news: Aaron Rodgers. He appears to be a little roughed up. He was seen taping up his ankle, or maybe I don't know what it was exactly.
He seemed to just be checking to see if that Achilles was still intact at the beginning
Yeah,
of this
let's
video.
roll the tape. Let's see if Rodgers is alive. There he goes.
Checking out
That
his
grab to the back of
Achilles.
the ankle here doesn't
Pointing it
look good
out.
to me.
Getting a doctor on it.
What is he looking at? there?
Checking the sun signs.
Yeah, I think that's what that was.
Oh, what a
Looking
great
down at it
pitch.
again.
That was beautiful. Oh, he's limping.
What a rollout.
Yeah, it just doesn't look natural at all, does it?
No.
Doesn't look great there. Good luck to Aaron Rodgers. Jalen Waddle. He's been extended by 3 years, $84 million, 76 of it guaranteed. We will talk about that in a little bit. And finally, Isaiah Buggs has 2 animal cruelty warrants out for him. I believe he was, again, I don't want to speak on what he was doing, but I believe he was abusing dogs.
Yes,
So
something along those lines.
That Chiefs team, is it the worst personable team in the league?
I mean, this is one of the worst PR years for any team that I can remember. It's not like big things, but it's just like little things that just keep popping up for each individual little player, and a lot of it insignificant players. But, man, it's just wild. They're always in the news, it feels like.
Yeah, basically since the end of the season after they won the Super Bowl, it's been every week, every other week, some bad Chiefs story popping up in the news. Mostly Rashee Rice at the beginning of the summer, but it seems like the rest of the team's picking up the slack now.
That's right. And mercifully, this first segment has come to an end. We've got a packed show for you today. Again, that's it. Segment 1, ESPN 1410 Wing AM. Best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. I'm sick. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, the best farmers in all the land.
I mean, they united the dairy. What else do you want?
They did. That is true. The dairy is certainly more united now than it ever has been. Listen, I'm going to remain calm with the Reds. I watched yesterday. I watched on Tuesday. This isn't new. This isn't new for anybody. We know who this team is at this point. I'm sure there was a lot of this fan base that got a little bit confused when they looked like the world's best team against the Dodgers. Jacob's hand is up.
You too. Come on.
I got excited. I get excited when my team wins. There's no doubt about it. But you can't be fooled. You can't be confused at what they are. And what they are is a mediocre baseball team. And it sucks to say that. They've got elite pitching, I'd say, up until this point. They've gotten all the help in the world from their starting staff. And I'd argue the bullpen, up until lately, has been pretty damn good as well. Mm-hmm. So, no, I'm not shocked that they lost the series to the Cardinals. I'm not going to be shocked if they lose the series to the Cubs. I'm not going to be shocked if they beat the Cubs either. It's just one of those teams where it's just a mystery. Casey talked about it earlier on this season, but consistency is one of those things that the Reds don't have. And as we fight through every single game this season, it becomes more and more clear that they're just not a consistent ball club.
Do we think that getting a guy back like McLean or Marte could be the difference now? Like, have they shown enough life to where you think like maybe one guy can completely turn it around?
No.
One guy, no, but I do think a lot of those guys are coming back around the same time, and I think my sentiment with this Reds team and this season as a whole kind of stands the same. It's when we get the standard lineup back or the expected lineup back, if we're still not being able to, hit for power at all and we're still struggling to get hits, that's when I'll be nervous, even if the season is long over by then in probably, mid-August, if McLean even ever does come back this year, which I wouldn't be surprised if they hold him out if we're too far below 500. But I'm not going to press the complete panic button on the current roster not working because we are playing guys who are supposed to be backups every single day. This is not – like Jeimer Candelario is playing third or first every single day. We signed him to be the DH with Marte at third and CES at first. So this is just so different than the roster construction we planned on. I know it's hard to point to injuries because everyone has them. But I refuse to believe everyone has them to this level. I mean, it's everybody up and down the lineup. Projected starters at almost every position have missed significant time except for Ellie. I don't know how anyone would overcome this and be a competitive team.
Yeah, I in case you asked, would one guy fix it? I'm going to go through what yesterday's lineup was. TJ Friedel, early. He hasn't had a ton of at-bats, but from what we've seen, he's hitting 160. Ellie De La Cruz, he's hitting 249. Candelario, 220. Fraley is the only guy hitting above 250 at 280. Steer, 220. 190 Martini, 220 India, 190 Benson. Luke Maley, 160. So no, one guy is not going to fix this. You have a lot of issues with this current Reds team, with the Reds offense specifically. And will they be able to fight their way out of it? I don't know. I'm at a point now where I take it game by game, series by series. And I try to enjoy the little moments, as corny as that sounds. That's what I have. That's what I have to work with this season. not to the fault of the Reds. And as Jacob said, you don't blow up the roster because of what's happened this year. Everybody's hurt. We're dealing with steroids. When Noelvi Marte comes back, the offense will look a little bit better. But no, one guy, two guys. I don't know if it fixes the crux of this issue, which is that right now they're not a good baseball team offensively.
Okay, so I'm glad that you answered that way, because then you look at the rest of the guys on the roster that are currently struggling, and maybe this is unfair. I'm going to go this direction first about when we talk about the Reds so far this year. They've been put in a lot of opportunities to tie games up or even, take the lead. LA's been in a lot of those positions. And every time I've watched them this year, and I can count more opportunities on I can't count the opportunities on both hands because it's been that many that he's had an opportunity to either tie or get the lead for the Reds, and he has not come up big.
I think that's
Is that unfair of me to say that right now the guys that we need to be stepping up and taking that leadership role have not done so?
Yeah, I think that's one of the worst. The people saying Ellie's not a big moment player or whatever, I think is one of the worst things to say right now. I think it has zero bearing. Look at the lineup. I mean, he's the only hitter in the lineup you're scared of. Why would they ever give him reasonable pitches to hit? He's protected by guys like Nick Martini. Mike Ford was batting third for a month. Like, this roster is not a competitive roster. We're 8 games below 500. Those aren't big moments. I mean, I'd love to win games in May, but when you're 8 games below 500 and you're not actually competing for anything, I don't know how big of a moment that is, how big of a clutch hit that even be to just check off one win out of 162 when you're 8 games below 500. It's different when you get to the end of the season, you're fighting for the playoffs or anything like that, but I think all the clutch talk about this team is ridiculous because we haven't been in clutch situations. Like, you can say yesterday, runners on first and third, that would have won the game. I don't think that's a clutch situation when you're 8 games below 500. I don't think one win for a bad team is pressure situation.
So a team that's desperate to win ball games, that's not a clutch situation?
See, again, I think we're a bad team with a bad roster.
Yeah, I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Like when Elliot was reading off a lot of those numbers, and they are really bad. Like, they're missing a lot of guys, but again, in those situations, like, who I get that you want Ellie De La Cruz to come up with those clutch hits, but like Jacob said, those are clutch moments for small victories at the end of the day. Like,
right.
Yes, it's good to win a series against the Cardinals, but also does winning that one game, is that going to turn the season around with
right.
the numbers that you see? Probably not.
I don't expect him to do it every time, right? That would be ludicrous, right? I mean, that would make him one of the best. I mean, he is still one of the best players, but that would probably make him one of the best players of all time if he always came up big on those moments. But I expect it to happen more times than it does, I guess. And especially when you look at the times where we have lost one-run games. I mean, it's just like that's the difference, right? You look at last year and we were winning those games. Now we're not. And it's because we're not getting those moments. We're not hitting when it matters. And yes, the whole team is not hitting.
Right.
But they've had opportunities to at least extend the game, take the lead, things like that. And I wonder at what point do we start saying, like, this is a problem, because this has already happened a lot so far this year. And we're only in May. And, of course, we're going to get more guys coming into this roster, Marte, McLean. But if it keeps continuing to show, if it keeps happening, then why am I going to think any different next year? Next year is going to be the same problem. We're not going to hit when it matters most.
See, again, I don't think there's moments where it matters right now. Like, I don't think winning that game yesterday is anything more than a blip and a small cheer on a Wednesday night when we're going to, turn around and lose a series to the Cardinals or lose a series to the Cubs and lose the next series after that. Like, this team, the roster is just not an MLB roster. Like, as much as you want to, even if you flip one-run games, you're not winning them all. What this Reds team did last year in one-run games is unheard of. That record is unbelievable. We were the best in the major leagues by a wide margin in one-run games. I think this year, obviously, we're below average by a lot as well, but I think we're going to find ground there and find level like I think the hitting will.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz, Casey's brought this point up, and I guess it's kind of fair. It feels like in the bottom of the ninth, top of the ninth, Reds are down a run, common trend, down 2 runs, and Ellie comes up to the plate with runners on, and he doesn't deliver. But what Casey didn't mention is that he had 2 big hits late in that game yesterday that kept the Reds alive.
Correct.
One of those hits he ended up scoring a run off of. A run that probably shouldn't have been a run with anybody else on the base path. The guy had a little bit of a fumble, and I don't know who it was off the top of my head, in shallow right field, and Ellie's able to score on that because of how fast he is. No other player on the team can make that play. None.
He's one of 2 guys on the team hitting he's 249 now, but he's one of 2 guys on the team hitting at or around 250. I mean, Jake Fraley's the other one, and we know how many at-bats he's had this year. It's certainly not many, and he's at 280. So he gets as many big hits as anyone on the team.
Yeah. I guess my perspective is just I want to try to win these games, right?
Well,
I want it
would
to
love
be
to.
the best that we can be, right? And when you have those moments, I would love for them to be able to take the advantage of the opportunity, right? And it's not just Ellie, right? I point out Ellie because I feel like he's been in that opportunity the most on this team.
Or are the lights just the brightest when it's him?
Yeah, that too, but I would have to go back and look at the exact numbers because I feel like it's been a lot, and I've watched about 3/4 of the game so far this year. I've not been able to watch every game, but a lot of the games I watch, it feels like he's up there, and man, you wish he would have got the hit there and not a random bloop single to score an RBI in or somewhere or a double somewhere. I mean, it just. I don't know. That's the.
I get it. Don't get me wrong, and nobody wants to win more than I do, but it's at the end of the day, Jacob is 100% right. The roster's not good. Next year, you have to hope that the roster is going to be better. They're going to be at least some version of what we thought they were going to be this year. Hopefully, they're healthy. Hopefully, nobody's juicing, and hopefully, we get through it. But as of right now, Ellie De La Cruz is quite literally. If Ellie De La Cruz isn't on this team, I don't know how many wins the Reds have this season.
Absolutely nothing.
I would take away probably 5 or 6.
His WAR's almost 2, and I think it's much higher than that.
I think it's much higher than that as well. If you take away Ellie De La Cruz from this roster, you're in big, big trouble. And I get you want to capitalize on those moments, but those moments are so few. When you have to deliver a big hit, it seems like all the pressure is then on you. Like Ellie De La Cruz is up there trying to swing for the fences because he knows there's nobody in front of him or behind him that's going to be able to deliver the big hit either. So it's up to him to make sure he's watching every pitch carefully. It's up to him to make sure he's able to get on base, try to get on base, try to put the ball in play. There's so many guys on this team right now that don't even put the ball in play. You talk about the big moments. There's several times where I feel like Candelario just strikes out when there's a runner in scoring position, or
yeah, it's not just Ellie.
No, it's just one of those things the Reds are fighting through right now, and as I said, want to start this segment, it's what they are. They are right now who we think they are, and right now we think they're not a very good baseball team. We swept the Dodgers, hang the banner, but at the end of the day, this is still the same team it was 2 weeks ago. It's got really great starting pitching. It's got really, really bad offense, really inconsistent hitting. They were talking about it on the broadcast yesterday, I think Barry and Sadak, and they were talking about how to get through it. And it's the same stuff that you say. You just try every day to change your approach just a little bit and see what works, see what sticks. Nothing's sticking right now. Everybody knows that, but you have to try it, and you have to try to get through this stretch. The tough stretch is officially over. The stretch that Trace said he wanted to go 4 games under 500. I was wrong. Hand up there. I don't know what they exactly finished during the stretch, but I know they've got 8 wins in the month of May.
Yeah, it wasn't good. They beat the team that we thought they would just absolutely just suck.
Imagine if they didn't sweep the Dodgers.
I mean, we'd be
Yeah.
I don't know what we'd be talking about today, to be honest with you.
It'd be even worse.
One thing I will say is it's a young team, and people say, sophomore slump. That could definitely be part of it. I do think that a lot of what these guys need, like you were talking about with changing your approach just a little bit at the plate, but they just need more at-bats. If things are going to turn around, more at-bats can only help.
I agree with that, and we'll talk about that in a minute here, because there's a lot of guys clamoring for AAA for some of these players, and at the end of the day, what does that help? How does that help anybody?
Right.
And the answer is probably doesn't.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that and more coming up. ESPN 1410, Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports. This is Off the Bench. We'll be right back. All right, welcome on in, Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports. I am fighting through an illness, and I'm not gonna lie. We're down 2 segments. I've found out something, fellas. If I talk for more than 3 minutes at a time, I start to get lightheaded.
Oh, that's fun.
So if you see me going for more than 3 minutes, cut in, please God. And by the way, shout out to the Reds, because they certainly haven't helped me go through this illness any easier either. But this is what we are, and people are calling for Will Benson specifically. I've seen Will Benson, send him down to AAA. Luke Maley, AAA. Espinal, what does he do? AAA. You can't send everybody down at this point. You have to ride with them. Stuart Fairchild. Shout out to Stu. That's a guy I did not believe in coming into this year. Nick Kirby, I think, talked about it this past weekend when they swept the Dodgers. Stuart Fairchild has lived up to the role that he had promised for him coming into the year. He has done his job to the T.
Yep.
That's one guy who has lived up. Even though I see his numbers right now, they're not great. But if you look at it just against lefties, and if you look at him defensively, he's been phenomenal. Will Benson has been better than I think what people are making him out to be. I could be wrong on that. But Will Benson has been better. He's been decent defensively. I'd say he's been above average defensively. And it's just against left-handed pitching, he just looks lost.
Which he shouldn't be facing.
Correct.
Correct.
He's been forced into a position because of TJ Friedel's injury and the lack of defense elsewhere, and how bad Stu is against righties, that he has to play almost every day to just make the Reds' outfield sustainable. With Spencer Steer out there, he's not a great glove. Fraley, obviously not a great glove. With Stu and Will Benson out there, it's a pretty damn good defensive outfield. And Will Benson just is put in situations he shouldn't be put in.
Correct. And here's the thing. You send him down, and what exactly happens? Maybe he learns how to hit again. Maybe because that's what happened last year, to be fair.
That's the only thing I keep pointing back to.
Yeah, here's what I think. I think if you send Will Benson down, he's going to hit a bunch of homers, and then people are going to want him back up. He's going to go on a long stretch of not hitting well, but then he's going to hit a homer, and then people are like, he did it the other day. People were upset with him. People in the chat were saying how terrible he was, Jacob included, and then he hit a homer, and that gives him 50 more plate appearances before people get mad again.
In 42 at-bats against lefties, he has 4 hits. He's batting .095 with a .260 OBP. Against righties, he's only hitting .230. Like, it's not night and day. He's been much, much better in the last couple weeks. He's back above league average in the last couple weeks against righties. He's finding a little bit of power, which obviously this lineup needs. We have no power. He provides a little bit of pop. Most of his hits in the last 15 games are extra base hits with 4 home runs. But I don't know. Part of me just looks back at last year, and I can't get out of my head how bad he looked. And he went down, and he came back up, and he tore the cover off the ball. So part of me thinks if we have guys that are willing to come up and can play even serviceably for a week or two, maybe he can get hot.
Well, he's no longer leading the league in strikeouts, right, Jacob?
He's tied with about 5 other guys.
Tied.
Yeah,
I thought he didn't lead at
74
all.
with O'Neal Cruz, Ezekiel Tovar, and Ellie. All 5 at the top of the league.
How about that?
Wow.
Hang the banner.
Something you didn't think you would hear today.
But yeah, if you were gonna do it, if you were gonna send down Will Benson, you would probably want to do it right now.
Right. Yeah.
Like with TJ Friedel up.
I thought that might have been the corresponding move for TJ's activation. But
Really?
I mean, yeah, just because Mike Ford, he had 5 at bats in 5 games. It was, or not even that. So yeah, I thought they might have just kept him up as an infield body, as a first base DH body. But I guess that's kind of what they think Martini's going to be.
Yeah.
I somewhat expected Will Benson to be sent down, but I think that home run certainly saved him.
Yeah.
The Reds are 18th in home runs. They're 29th in batting average. They're 26th in OBP. They're 20th in runs scored. It's not a good team offensively. We know this. Nothing's going to help the cause. Send Will Benson down. Don't send him down. I think he's probably been better than some people say, but we just have to keep rolling with these punches, unfortunately, as we go on. We have a Reds buy or sell for you today at some point as well. I guess we can probably do that this segment. Yeah. But my final point here would be I'm truly hoping that Spencer Steer is turning it around. He's a guy that I've needed to be good. The last 7 games, he's hitting 200 with a 333 OBP, 480 slug. And you might say 200's not good. 200's okay for what I need him to be right now, and I just need him to get on base. Because if we don't have any guys that can get on base, those big moments Casey's talking about, they don't exist.
Right.
So you need guys like Spencer Steer to come back to the Reds at some point this season. I thought, again, it was going to happen after this stretch against the Dodgers. Not the case.
Yeah, I'd like to know how he did last season, because there was a stretch where he kind of disappeared and everyone started coming up and started to kind of mask his performance. But yeah, I mean he just completely disappeared there for a while, and hopefully he's starting to kind of get back into a groove. He's starting to get on base a little more often than what he was. I mean, boy, he went from like a 300 average to 200 in a span of 15 days, 17 days, something like that.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Last year, Steer hit 271 with an 820 OBP. Both would be first on the Reds by a country mile right now. He had 3 WAR, and this year he's only at 0.5 right now. So I don't necessarily think he's going to get back to that level we saw last year, this year, or if ever.
Peak.
But yeah, peak. But he's gonna be better than 220. He just is. It's not even close to the same player we watched last year.
No, I agree completely. I just hope we see signs of life at some point. I know it's only May, but you can only say it's only for so many months. Eventually, you are who you are. And the Reds are going to fight through that this year. Jacob, we have some Reds buy or sells. Is that correct?
We do.
I can't wait.
First one on the docket is the same as the first one that we had when we did Reds buy or sell earlier this week. Most of the room bought it, and I think we have a different take this time. Reds will be 500 or better at the All-Star break. I know I bought it on Tuesday. I'm flipping around and I'm selling this for a big time loss. After that 4-game win streak, I was back in. I was getting excited. But I mean, there's just no way. I mean, Nick Kirby put the numbers in the chat right after I bought it last episode or a couple of days ago, and yeah, we had to go so high above 500. It's just ridiculous. There's no way this team gets to 500 by the All-Star break. Part of me wants to know if they'll get to 500 at some point this season. I think that might honestly be a better question. But when it comes to the All-Star break, I think it's a hard no for me.
There is no scenario where the Reds are above 500 at the All-Star break. I don't think there's a scenario where the Reds get back to 500, if I'm going to be completely honest. I can't wait to ask this next question. After we finish this buy or sell, I'm going to ask you a question. But yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now. There's no game that's easy from this point on, really. I mean, we can sit back and say the Rockies and the Marlins at home, that's winnable. And it is.
We are one of those teams.
But we are, yeah, exactly right.
Like the teams that competitive teams look at their roster and they say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about those series. Those are the Marlins, the Athletics. The Reds are that. That is what the Reds are at this point. So no series is an easy win. We're a bottom 5 team in the league. That's the best point that has been made on this show. You can't look down on anybody at this point. Everybody's level or you're looking up. And that's every single series going forward. Even the Athletics this year. I'd say the Athletics have played better this season than the Cincinnati Reds. And that's a pretty tough realization. But I'm selling this. No chance.
I said that they would easily get to that point because they were going to, what did I say, go 7-0 against the Cubs in the next 12 games or something like that. I don't know if I feel that way anymore. I still feel like they might shock us a little bit and play the Cubs well just because of how bad the Cubs have been playing recently. But man, getting above 500 this season seems like a tall task. If you're going to do it, it's got to start soon. It's got to start now.
That's true.
It's got to start against the Cubs. I got to sell it for now until I see something otherwise. But I'm holding out hope for this series, this 12-game stretch against the 7 games against the Cubs. I think that'll show us a lot of what we have to look forward to the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think I sold this the last time we talked about it, and I do think that there was a tweet that I read recently that kind of encapsulates where we were sitting, Tuesday, after they were on a 4-game winning streak. And it's fans of a 500 baseball team overreact to every win and loss. A good team, you know you can't win them all. A 100-loss team, you eventually get used to it. But a 500 team, you're emotionally as good as the last 24 hours. And in that case, I think the Reds sweeping the Dodgers, we thought, okay, maybe we're a 500 team and we only looked at the past 24 hours. And in that case, it was past, 95 or 96 hours. But, yeah, I think that's kind of – we're back in that place. We don't want to admit that maybe this is a 100-loss team because you see a series like the Dodgers at home and you sweep the Dodgers, the mighty Dodgers, who are inevitably going to win 100 games no matter how bad they play unless they lose 20 games in a row, it feels like, because they're always good. And I think it's frustrating, and eventually you just have to get to the point where you got to admit, okay, maybe they might lose 100 games. They're not going to get back to 500, and I don't really think they're going to get back to 500 at all this year. And I think that the numbers kind of point towards that, kind of like what Elliot was saying.
I'd agree.
Before we get back to the buy or sells, we'll probably finish that up next segment. I've been seeing in the chat, they want a hero, and that hero is Joey Votto. Should the Reds bring back Joey Votto?
I mean, that's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That's a 40-year-old man that would cost $20 million for the Reds this year, who is apparently not good enough to play on any of the other 29 teams either. So
It's probably not even worked out either.
I know, I know that the Reds fans love Votto. I love Votto. He was great in this city for a long, long time. But if he's not good enough to play for the other 29 teams, why is he good enough to play for the Reds? So.
And here's the thing. Nobody cheers against Joey Votto. Nobody hates Joey Votto. There's a couple people in this city that do. I am not one of them. Nobody in this room is one of them. Maybe Jimmy.
I like Joey Votto.
Okay, thank you. Nobody's against Joey Votto. But for a team that has no players, 0, hitting above 250, I don't see how a guy that was hitting like 180 for the past 2 years, I don't see how that guy's going to make a big difference here.
Next
I really
time
don't.
he's here is going to be for his statue. Let's just make sure that that's that.
Now you can make Kinner. Shout out to Roger in the chat. Kinner does hate Votto. That is abundantly clear. And you can make the argument to me that the Reds are so bad this season. Why not bring Votto back? But Jacob's right. If you're bringing him back, it is not to help you win. It is
to try to put butts in seats. That's
Correct.
the only incentive to bring Votto back, and I don't want to be a charity case organization.
Correct.
We already did the send-off.
Yeah.
We're good with that.
Well, technically, they never really did a send-off.
No, right.
And that's in a lot of people's
One of the
brains
worst
as
things
well.
ever by the Reds.
Maybe we should bring him back. My bad. Let's do a proper send-off.
But yeah, right now I don't like he plays first base, and I don't even know what you do. Like he can't hit against lefties either, so it's bringing Joey Votto back solves absolutely nothing. I saw them writing about that on the Enquirer today. How this is as of a week ago. How Joey Votto and Tommy Pham could help fix the Cincinnati Reds.
Tommy Pham, noted great Reds player. He's most known for punching a player in the outfield, not playing baseball. So,
yeah, LOL.
LOL.
Bring back Joey if you want. Don't bring him back. Either way, the Reds aren't winning games. So, do whatever you feel is possible. We're gonna do buy or sell next. We're gonna finish it up, and that's it. So, segment. This is Casey. I'm starting to lose my segments. I think that was segment 3.
Yeah, this will be segment 3.
We'll be right back. Chatterbox Sports Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll be back with you in a second. All right, let's finish up the buy or sell. We're going to get to some NFL talk after this in the remaining 2 segments. But we're going to finish up buy or sell now because I'm curious to see what Jacob's got cooked up over there.
So the next question I have is about your very, very close friend.
Ooh.
Noted, great guy, Luke Maley. Should Luke Maley remain on the roster? We know he's not hitting great. That's been talked about a lot. He's hitting 167 on the year this year, just above 160 in his last 15 games. Not a whole lot of extra base hits, not a whole lot of anything but a couple bloop singles. And then yesterday, he's obviously on the roster to be a great defensive catcher. And then yesterday, he botches an infield throw just right out of his glove that would have cut down a run at home plate. So, Elliot, I think it's only fair if I ask you first. Luke Maley, should he still be on the roster?
No. This is something where I like Luke Maley. It's a fun story to talk about Luke Maley, hometown kid. But at some point, I saw the tweets yesterday. The Reds are 5-20 when Luke Maley is the starting catcher.
Wow.
5-17, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, and they're like 20-17 with Stevenson.
Well above, yeah, a couple games above 500 with Stevenson.
He hasn't been as good defensively this year as he was last year. He has not been good offensively whatsoever. No, Luke Maley right now is offering the Reds nothing. And at this point, that's one position you just have to make a change because Tyler Stevenson should really be playing 80% of these games at this point, 90% of them. Yeah. He gets one off day a week. He gets one. Righty, lefty, doesn't matter. Tyler Stevenson needs to be playing every single day. Luke Maley, his at-bats, they don't help this team whatsoever. Yesterday, one of the most I'm not going to completely blame Luke Maley. It wasn't a great throw. But a one-hopper to the plate, that's a catch you have to make if you're a catcher in Major League Baseball. And he didn't make it. He didn't execute it. I think the writing's on the wall, and I think the Reds unfortunately have to look elsewhere, probably in AAA, bring somebody up, and make a move.
I don't remember who was. We had 3 guys on the roster last year. Who was the 3rd guy?
Grandpa Kurt Casale.
Kurt Casale. Is it time to bring him up? I think he would provide you the exact same thing as Maley, right?
Is he retired or is he still playing?
Kurt Casale's terrible. Let me see where he's at.
There was another guy you liked in like AAA, right?
Do you like Tucker?
Yeah. We give it old Chucky Robb a call.
Yeah, Chucky Robinson. I like that.
Did you like Tucker Barnhart? You could bring him back.
Tucker, yeah.
Tucker's Luke Maley.
Yeah.
He is for the Giants. He plays for the Giants.
Oh wow, good for him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Luke Maley's an MLB catcher in basically any facet of the game at this point. We didn't expect his bat to be any better than 210, 220, and it's somehow been a lot worse than that. And then the defense, which is the reason you have him up here, isn't even as necessary anymore because Tyler Stevenson's improved so drastically. The whole reason everyone pounded the table to keep his glove in the lineup last year is because Tyler Stevenson was so bad defensively. Well, Stevenson's league average are even a little bit better in most catching stats now. So the need for this wizard defensive catcher behind him doesn't present itself quite as much anymore, not to mention that he's not that he hasn't been great defensively. Ellie pointed out the record with him, which I know this team's bad, but when there's such a stark difference between 2 catchers with the same lineup, that's a clear area where you need to make a change. I mean, Luke Maley is costing this team games, if not directly, indirectly, and I don't necessarily know what the fix is. I mean, I don't know what the catching situation's like in AAA, but there's no name that sticks out in my head that I immediately want playing for the Reds. So I'm not sure. In all honesty, I think Luke Maley's probably just going to be a Red for
I think he's going
the
to
rest
be.
of the season.
Correct.
But I would love to make a change.
I think he's going to be, but should he remain on the roster with his current numbers? Absolutely not.
I'm going to sell this as well. Watch him yesterday. He dropped that ball at the plate. Would have saved them a run. But it kind of reminds me, he grew up in where? Outside Northern Kentucky. So right outside Cincinnati. You know who also grew up right around their favorite team growing up? Rudy Rudiger. Right outside of Chicago. Went on to walk on the Notre Dame football team. No, it is a known fact that no one on the team wanted Rudy Rudiger to play because they hated Rudy Rudiger.
If I could laugh, I would have laughed at your bit, but I can't.
okay. So
I
I sell.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that.
Maybe if Luke Maley turns in his jersey, this season can turn around.
Or
Everyone else would turn their jersey in
And to cut Luke
for
Maley.
Luke Maley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, the next one, we touched on Ellie. We touched on the big moments, everything like that. He's been slumping a little bit lately.
Sure.
He hasn't played great in the last month or so after starting the year at an unbelievable pace. Yesterday, he did get 2 big hits. Buy or sell, Ellie's 2-hit day brings him out of this little mini slump. I'm going to buy it because if I don't buy this, there's nothing to buy about this Reds team for the rest of the season. So I'm rooting on Ellie to keep stealing bases. I'm rooting on Ellie to hit a couple more home runs and get back to 30-30 pace, maybe even 100 stolen base pace. Get that average back up to around 260, maybe even push 270, and get those MVP odds back down to something I can check every now and again. Now that was fun for about a week-long stretch when he was top 5 at MVP odds. But I think buying this is more of a sentiment on where I stand in this Red season as a whole than where I stand with Ellie, because this is his first full season in the MLB. If he wants to have a little slump here and there, I'm not going to be mad at him. He's 22 years old, and he's playing professionals for the first time in his life. So, slumps are expected, but if he's not going to be an all-star player, an MVP caliber player, there's not a whole lot to get excited about this Reds team.
Yeah, I agree with Fred in the chat. Ellie's never going to be a guy that's going to hit like 300. He might do it a couple times in his career, but this isn't a guy who's going to go out there and hit for average. He's doing all the other stuff. He's stealing bases. He's getting on base. He's hitting for power. He's doing the other stuff. So no, I think the any little momentum he can get is usually when Ellie gets right back in the right, correct headspace and he goes on a little run. He's 3 hits in his last 9 at bats. So he's fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to use this as momentum to carry us forward. Because as Jacob said, he is the only light that I see on this Reds offense right now. There's a lot of darkness going on, and I'm trying to find a flashlight, and he's the only one I've got. He's the only one I've got that can lead me out of the tunnel. And God bless him for it. I'm buying all the way.
I mean, I don't want to say that it has to be a 2-hit day for Ellie to get out of a slump. I just think that, like you said, Ellie is not going to hit for average, and I don't think that we should expect him to be this guy that's hella consistent, getting a hit every game for the next 14 days or whatever. That's not who Ellie is. He's just going to explode. He's going to be streaky, and I think all of us should be expecting that. A 2-hit day, I guess, would be the start of that streak, right? I guess that we could mark that as the thing that could get him out of a slump.
That'd be the question.
But I won't hold him just to that, because I think he can do other things too. Like if he had 4 stolen bases in one game, that's pretty damn good too. So I don't know. It's it could be anything. It could be a numerous amounts of things that could get him out of the slump. So I guess I'm buying. But
Yeah, I'm going to buy also. I mean, you guys kind of touched on everything, how important he is to this team. He has a 2.3 WAR this year, and him even getting a single is more than likely going to result to him being on third base.
Right, at least in scoring position.
And, I mean, this team needs runs where they can get them, and I think Ellie getting on base is the most important thing for this roster. And, yes, I'm going to buy.
All right, the last buy or sell for this Reds team I have for you is the other bright spot in this organization, not just Ellie. It's the starting pitching. The numbers certainly suggest it through the start of this season. I want to know what you think. Do the Reds actually have a top 10 rotation in the MLB?
I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy this. Similarly, kind of like what we see with the offense, you are who you are at this point. I think the starting pitching is who we hoped they would be. We thought if the Reds starting pitching this year was going to be as good as we thought, if the offense was going to be as good as they thought, this was going to be a bona fide playoff team. Half of them showed up. I think that's fair. I know the other half is riddled with injuries. I get all that. But, yeah, the starting pitching has been phenomenal. It's been absolutely incredible. Tyler Stevenson, I give him a large chunk of credit. I think the pitchers are more comfortable with him this season. I think he's called a couple great games. Some really, really great games. And, yeah, I think the starting pitching as of right now is without a shadow of a doubt a top 10 starting rotation in baseball. When your back half starting pitcher is Frankie Montas and Graham Ashcraft, you've got a damn good staff.
And you have a bullpen day mixed in there where Nick Martini's going to give you 6 shutout innings. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy it as well. I think this pitching rotation is great. I think Hunter Green is finally over that hump of not going long into games and focusing on the strikeouts and focusing on the velo. He's starting to mix that splitter in there a little bit more. He seems to be getting a lot more comfortable with that third and even that fourth pitch. He's been unbelievable this year. And Andrew Abbott, again, I'm just waiting for maybe that innings wall that we saw last year because he's been great so far, don't get me wrong, but he was at the start of last year as well. So I do love him, and if he's your third guy with Hunter Green and Lodolo, what is there to complain about? I absolutely think this rotation's top 10. There's no argument that they're top 10 right now, but I think they're going to be top 10 at the end of the season and for probably a long time to come because this group is younger, and they're probably just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a very young staff, and I think it's still early in the season, but I think this staff has put the Reds in a position to win a lot of games, and they haven't been able to hit their way to wins. Yeah. But I mean, that's really all they've done. Pretty much everything you can ask them to do. Like Elliot said earlier in the show, you can count on one hand how many like really bad starts they've had. Yeah. So I think there's really nothing else you can do except buy on this Reds pitching.
Yeah, I agree. Case, did you buy this one?
Yeah, I'm buying it. I think that's really you said that Ellie's the lone bright spot on this team. It's the pitching for me. That's the lone bright spot on this team. It's the most improved unit. It's the thing that we asked to be better than it was last year, and it's night and day, 100%. So, yeah, top 10 in the MLB.
As of right now, the Reds pitching staff as a whole, this isn't just starting pitching, they're 15th in ERA, 15th in batting average against, 13th in WHIP. I think that'll drop. I think they will be a top 10 pitching staff in all of Major League Baseball as well.
You also have to think that the people that are, if you're top 15 in all three of those stats, the people that are above you in all three stats are not the same.
Correct.
So being top 15 in all three stats probably lends yourself to being a top 10 pitching staff.
That's right. That's correct, and I buy it 100%. But that is it, correct?
That is it. That is our last buy or sell.
So that's it for this segment, segment 4. Again, shout out to anybody who's listening in your car or radio. This is Off the Bench. I'm doing my best. I'm trying here.
Eyes on the road.
I will say, as this goes on, I might have underestimated how this sickness was taking a hold of me. I will say this. I don't feel great right now at this very second, but we're going to fight through it. We got 2 segments for the rest of our lives. 2. I'm going to do my damnedest to get through it all. I'm going to take a much-needed ad break when Casey takes over for a second, and then I'm going to sit here in silence and think about all the mistakes I've made up until this point in my life. But that's it. We'll be right back. Best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports. We'll be right back with you.
All right, inside baseball for a second. You want to do our thing real quick?
No, you got it. You got it.
I was just thinking about it. We were doing the rock paper scissors thing, and you were putting your hands on my hands. And
yeah, bad idea.
That was probably a bad idea.
You're gonna have to wash them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wash them. The other thing too is next 2 segments. I think we pretty much got a good handle on it. We haven't touched anything about what happened with Scottie Scheffler. We haven't talked about the T. Higgins video. We haven't talked about any of the NFL stuff. So don't you worry, Elliot. We got you covered. That being said, let me bust into our advertisers. Encore Technologies, they provide IT solutions for a data-centered world with the suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Productivity, that's right, Jimmy.
Hell yeah.
The path to innovation begins right here. Visit encore.tech. And then let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. And visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And to be honest with you, I think Elliot might need a whole pack of this. This might make you feel a lot better.
I'm still waiting on that shipment that you promised me. I'm still waiting on the shipment.
I'm week 2, brother. I got to go over there. I got to go over there and ask them about it because they said they would bring it over, and I don't know. Maybe I just have to order some on PawneeWater.com.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know.
How about that?
But pH level of 8, by the way.
Yeah. What have you guys been talking about while I was gone all week?
The sad Reds. That's it.
A little bit of Bengals.
A little bit of Bengals talk. We mix some Bengals talk in there.
Yeah.
Got to get excited about something in the city, man.
Who day?
Who day?
All right. You ready?
Let's get back in there.
Yeah, I guess we're ready.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Elliot,
All right.
as soon as this is over, you need to go home.
Listen, if we're inside baseball here, I thought I was going to be able to do this. Difficult.
Can't do it.
I don't know. It's difficult right
And
now.
here
I don't know
I
how
thought
Jordan did it.
Here I thought we were gonna maybe go do it. No, we're not doing anything after
Yeah,
that.
Casey-
You're going home.
Casey texted me, "Hey, we're gonna do a video where we taste things." Brother, can't taste a
You
taste a
can't taste
thing.
nothing. That's tough.
But all right, here we go. 5 seconds of silence. Welcome back in Chatterbox Sports Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Woo! Woo!
Sorry
Yeah.
if you're in your car. That is not a siren.
That is what?
If you're in your car, that's not a siren.
Yeah, if you're listening in your car, that's most certainly not a siren. That is Elliot, the sick boy who's hosting the show. Harry, and the answer is yeah. That probably is most definitely what I had. But I'm fighting through it. I'm past the mandatory days as given out by the CDC. But as we continue to fight on, we are talking about, what are we talking about now? The Bengals?
Well,
is that it?
I'll leave it up to Jacob. Do you want to talk Bengals or do you want to talk
Let's
Scottie
finish-
Scheffler?
Let's do Scheffler first. Let's get this Scheffler stuff out of the way first.
Okay, so recently a video has leaked or come out of the conversation that Scottie Scheffler had with the police. We have it here in studio ready for the YouTube listeners to watch. There's not really much to watch, but there's a lot to listen to. So radio fans, don't tune out of your programming. Let me just throw this up here and we'll listen to it.
My tea time. Yeah. I had to loop all the way around. That way it took me about probably a half hour. Okay. So I pulled in here. The police officer up there told me to come the opposite way with the traffic and then come in. And as I was pulling in, my window was down, and the officer told me to stop. And first of all, I did not know that he was a police officer. I thought he was one of the security guards that was mistaken. And as I was pulling by him, he grabbed my arm.
Stop right there. Why does it matter if he's a security guard or a police officer?
Because
if somebody's telling you to stop.
Yes, you're right. I should have stopped. I did get a little bit impatient because I'm quite late for my tea time. And as he was reaching in the car, he grabbed my shoulder and hit me. Like
Trying to get you to stop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It seemed to be a little bit over aggressive because the entrance was open.
Okay.
And I pulled a little bit because I was afraid. I thought he was going to start hitting me, and I didn't know who he was. He didn't tell me he was a police officer. All I saw was the yellow jacket. I didn't know what he was doing. I listened to another police officer.
So the thing is, he's wearing a uniform. Okay. He also is wearing the same jacket that I have on that says police.
Yes.
Okay. Also, on that, if someone's telling you to stop, no matter who it is, you don't keep going. So what happened is, you kept going and you took him with you while he's a pedestrian. Okay.
Yes.
So you took him with your car.
Yes.
And drug him, okay?
Yeah.
Which is not a good thing,
I'm
right?
very aware that was
To
not
make
a good
it,
thing.
so listen to me, so make it even worse, when he asked you to get out of the car, you refused to get out of the car.
I still was not aware he was a police officer. I was actually looking out the window of the car to try to find a police officer. I asked.
We're all right here, and
I
he
know,
was there.
believe me, sir. If I knew
We're all wearing yellow vests so you can see us.
If he knew he was a police officer, I would have been much more less afraid. But panic kind of set in. As you can see, I'm still shaking because I was afraid. I didn't know who he was. He didn't say, police, get out of the car. He just hit me with his flashlight and yelled, get out of the car.
We're wearing a lot of police gear. That surely signifies that we're the
believe
police.
me, if I knew he was a police officer, I would have gotten out of the car. I don't know what to tell you other than I was a little bit panicked trying to get into the golf course, and now I don't know what to do.
Let's go back to the first point, okay? No matter if you thought it was a police officer or not, somebody. Why are we wearing yellow vests? Why do you think we're wearing yellow vests? So you can see us, right?
Yes.
So you can see us, and if somebody tells you to stop, if it's a traffic guard, security guard, anybody, that means you stop at that time and you don't keep going.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so stuff like this doesn't happen.
Yes.
Because you actually hurt him, and he's a police officer.
Yes. Is he okay?
He's got a huge scrape on his knee. He's getting checked by EMS, big bruise. So I don't know. But for you right now, the main question is if you're going to jail, and it's up to him. I don't know.
Am I able to speak with him?
No, not at this time. No. So what I'm gonna do, and
As you saw and as you heard, Scottie Scheffler pretty much explains what everybody thought. I know Harry in the chat says that it didn't help Scottie. I'd argue it does. He very clearly states that he didn't know it was a cop. He said it could have been what did he say, a security guard or something like that.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he was dealing with. He was just trying to get to the tee time. The gate was open. He was right there.
Every other golfer went through that entrance as well. That was confirmed by the rest of the field.
So it is pretty crazy. They have officially dropped all charges, and Scheffler is a free man.
Right after that video came out, they dropped all charges. So obviously the Louisville PD and everything saw that as Scottie being in the right, or at least explaining himself to a degree where he should have been let off and not brought into jail. So I do think Scottie, great guy, stand-up guy, didn't want to do the "do you know who I am" stuff, but I think that would have shut it down pretty quick. If he would have just said, "Hey, I'm Scottie Scheffler, #1 golfer in the world. There's a PGA golf event right here." I think they would have probably been like, "All right, dude, we'll deal with this later." I don't know. I applaud him for trying to take the high road there, but I think this is one of very few situations that that would have been the right play.
Yeah, and I don't really know. Like, I know it was a stressful situation for everybody involved. Scottie said it in his statement. He understands why the police acted the way they did. Somebody just lost their life. So the police were going through a million things. They probably weren't worried about what golfer was trying to get to his tee time during all that. That's to defend them a little bit. But what was listed as, like, everything that happened, like all the charges that were brought against Scottie, it seemed nonsensical. It seemed like, he was told to stop and he kept going at like 1 mile an hour. And they said like he was drugged. The police officer was drugged to the ground.
Had a big scrape on his leg and bruising. We saw the video of the cop hanging on the side of the window. He was halfway in the car pulling on Scottie's shirt. I mean, I know Scottie said he didn't realize they were cops, and that cop seemed to think that was the craziest suggestion in the entire world. But with a place with that much traffic, guys in yellow vests aren't always cops. I don't know. I mean, plenty of traffic guards down at GABP are directing traffic in very similar vests. And yeah, like Elliot said, it's important to note that there was a much bigger situation going on at the time. A guy did lose his life early in the morning. There was a massive influx of cops at the scene right there that had nothing to do with the golf tournament. If it was the same cops that were there every day, knew the golfers, knew the vehicles that are clearly marked and everything like that, I think we would have seen a different series of events take place. But just the perfect storm of bad things added up there to make Scottie in a bad position.
The whole situation with Scottie, like, I try to put myself in his shoes. I'm the one driving the car, right? I'm trying to get to my tee time. And I know this is me, and I'm not Scottie. But if I see someone walk up to my car at all at that sort of event in a yellow vest, regardless if it's a security guard, officer, I'm probably going to roll down my window and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Right? Like, it's just a simple, that's all I had to be done, is like a simple conversation explaining what's going on. He's barely driving, like, we all saw the video. He's barely driving like maybe 10 miles an hour at the most. And the cop literally jumps through the window. He's not dragged. He jumps through the window and drags him out. Like, I don't know, man. I think the only reason why there wasn't like any charges at all is because they put fake charges on what was probably legitimate gripe, like a legitimate issue, which is probably the traffic violations or whatever. But regardless, the whole situation just feels like it could have been avoided by both parties. Like, it's just a simple conversation, and it just got escalated so quickly. I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't know. I just wouldn't feel like if I was in that situation that would happen at all. Like,
I will say The lawyer, I think he came out and made a statement of Scottie Scheffler, and he was judging the character of the police officer and bashing the department. I don't think it should happen. I don't think it should happen like that. I do think that police officer's opinions, his thoughts going into that moment were skewed by the very serious situation that everybody was dealing with. So it's just one of those things. It's over. You look back on it now, and hopefully if you're Scottie, you'll laugh at it that you spent a morning in prison before a round of a major championship.
One of the best rounds you've ever played at a major.
Correct.
Where he shot 5 under, right?
Yeah. So that's it for that one, Casey.
Yeah. All right.
It's the nothing burger we expected it to be.
Correct.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Correct.
When everyone saw Scottie was going to jail, I think everyone kind of was shocked first and foremost. You read the charges, you're even more shocked, and then everything starts to come to light. He's at his tee time at 10:10 a.m., and you're like, all right, well, this is going to go nowhere. And evidently that's where it came.
I still want to see the irreparable damaged pants.
I want the pants. I want the pants in this studio. Framed. And right in between you and Elliot. I want those pants framed.
Yeah. I kind of like that idea.
That officer
I
apparently...
mean, it would block the window, the beautiful view of the Cincinnati skyline we have in Hamilton, Ohio. But, I think it'd be all right. I think it'd be a good change.
That officer apparently did release a statement. I don't know if that was a true statement or if I got on Twitter, but he did put a PS in his statement that said...
I would assume you got if there was a PS.
That's what I think too, but I don't know.
What did it say?
It said the PS was, and I had to get a new pair of pants. Yes, the pants were ruined. And again, if that was a statement, that's very funny on his part.
I think the inside of the pants were ruined.
Yeah, I still like that theory a lot. There's a reason why we haven't seen him yet.
That's very true. By the way, I wasn't here with the Adam Schefter stuff. What were your guys' thoughts on the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase stuff? Both not starting for OTAs. Are we on the hate Schefter train?
We have been since he disparaged Dwayne Haskins' name after his unfortunate death. So I've been hating Adam Schefter for a long, long time. I'm a devout rap sheet guy. Who's no better. They all do the same thing. They all just play for clicks. But hey, they're damn good at their job. So you got to respect it at some point. But yeah, I mean, T. Higgins, he's on his, he's going to sign the franchise tag and he's going to play week 1. And Jamar Chase is going to be here week 1, probably before. So yeah, it's a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, we have some different conversations that we can have about the T. Higgins thing and the cap space that we have left. But how much time do we have left in this segment? A couple minutes. How about we make it a little? We cut this a little early.
Yeah.
And we'll have a longer ending segment.
All right. So here we go. Into our last segment, Chatterbox Sports off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. You are listening to ESPN 1410 Wing AM, and we will be right back. Welcome back, Chatterbox Sports. Listen, everybody who's in their car listening right now, and you're listening to my nasally voice, I'm very sorry. But you have to fight through the pain, and that's what we're doing here today. We're fighting through the pain. Anybody who's watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Thank you to especially Sean Connor. Anytime I can shout out Sean Connor, I'm going to do so. Sean, we love you. But Casey, T. Higgins.
Yeah, there's a couple things that we could talk about here with T. Higgins and the Bengals. Do you want to start with the video,
I think we should play the video first, and then we can go from there. So T. Higgins was, I don't know I think this was an ad, a teaser for he's going to be on I Am Athlete, the podcast, I think in the coming weeks. And then this right here is what he had to say.
Obviously, I don't know what the situation would be right now, but it would be bittersweet, I guess you could say. As far as me coming back.
Okay.
We should be out. If someone wants to. I want to say that we're up.
We are live.
We are live. Okay. So.
We're back.
So bad.
So here's the crazy thing, chat. My computer crashed.
Raggy.
Which has never happened before in the middle of the show. So I'm just doing a quick boot up, and I'm going to hit record here in just a second for the radio. And we're going to try to redo that wonderful segment. I don't know how we're going to splice that up for the radio, but we're going to try.
Do you want to just bring the video back in and start the video and then cut all that?
Yeah, it might just be better if we like completely redid the
segment.
segment. So
Yep.
and it's gonna be
That's
a little
what I
awkward for the viewers at home, but all right.
Many are asking if I gave that computer the COVID.
I
Maybe.
think you did.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Fred M says David Mulligetta took down the stream because we're talking about T.
Let's see here.
That Marty Brenneman burner he said clown show. That is a burner, right?
No, that's Marty.
Is it actually
I
Marty?
don't know.
I never know.
All right, here we go. Let's give it a 5-second.
Silence. Welcome back in Chatterbox Sports off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I am Elliot the Zebra Rearing. That is Casey the Cow Killer McAllister. That is Jacob the Crimson Tide Tissot, and that is Jimmy. Listen, our computer just crashed. For those listening on the radio, you're not even going to know what happened because we're just going to go right into this segment. But for those at home, you obviously know we've been down for several minutes. That gave me a good breather to try to catch my breath with all this illness. But yeah, this segment was dedicated to T. Higgins because everybody's freaking out about it. Listen, T. Higgins, I saw the video. It made me cry.
Oh, tears were in my eyes.
Emotions were flying
big
everywhere.
time. Cried with us this morning.
Yeah, that's how I can describe it. But we'll get everybody in the room's thoughts on it. I guess we'll just play the video, Casey. Is that what we'll do?
Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
play the video. This was a video, kind of like a promo for T. Higgins to come on I Am Athlete. And it's kind of revealing. It kind of gives you a little insight on what T. Higgins is thinking. And I think it's a very, how would you explain it? Emotional type video?
Emotional for sure. It
Emotional.
paints his whole not showing up for OTAs and all the contract disputes in a completely different light than what we've been told from the outside. So it's important.
Yeah. So I'm going to play it right here. Yep, playing it right now.
I don't know what the situation would be right now, but it would be bittersweet, I guess you could say. As far as me coming back, I would love to come back. You know what I'm saying? I grew as a man, in the past 4 years here, grew as a player, got new friendships, great relationships with, people, not in the facility, in the city of Cincinnati. The fans are great. So I would definitely love to be here, But if that's not the situation, then that's not the situation, I guess.
I mean, that's just brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that all the Adam Schefter nonsense about how much he hates the Bengals and how bad of a place Cincinnati is to play is just that. It's nonsense. So he clearly wants to be here. He clearly loves the city. Clearly has a love for the city outside of just the organization. He talks about how he has friends outside the facility, how he's become a better man here. I think T's going to be great this last year in Cincinnati, and then he's going to go elsewhere, and hopefully somewhere to the NFC.
Jimmy in the chat
Lying.
just lying. Yeah, I mean, I love T. Higgins, man. It's a shame that I feel like the inevitability of him leaving is right around the corner. I don't think there's a way that we can keep both Jamar and T, as much as we would love for that to be the case. There's going to be a team out there that pays him a lot of money. And just recently this morning, I know Nate was screaming it in the chat. We had it in our headlines. We had another breaking news. Jalen Waddle. He got a deal done, and it is huge. It was a 3-year, $85 million?
3-year, $85 million, 76 of it guaranteed. That slates him as the 5th highest paid receiver in the league, right behind Tyreek Hill. So the Dolphins now have almost $60 million credited to those two receivers next year. Tua still not extended. Raheem Mostert, their running back, who led the NFL in touchdowns last year, on the last year of his deal. And we know they certainly don't have a very good wide receiver 3 or 4 in Kendall Sheffield, Braxton Berrios. So I really wonder the direction this Dolphins team is going with these contract extensions. I mean, we talk about it in Cincinnati all the time. how we don't think it's feasible to pay 2 receivers and the quarterback. And if you hear Dolphins fans talk all year long, they certainly think Tua is right up there with Burrow when it comes to NFL play. So why wouldn't they pay him? But instead, you've paid these 2 receivers. You let the best player in your defense, in Christian Wilkins, walk this offseason. He's with the Raiders now. Xavier Howard, who's been there forever as an all-pro corner, a free agent still. So I'm really concerned with this Dolphins team and where they're headed. Obviously, I think Waddle's a great player. I think Tyreek Hill's a great player. But Tyreek Hill's alluded to retiring at a young age before. So if he hangs it up and you have $30 million dedicated to Waddle, who's never in his career played as the true number 1 receiver. He put up great numbers at Alabama, but remember, Devontae Smith was on that team as well, won the Heisman. So with Tyreek Hill covering him there, he's really never faced a true number 1 corner, maybe ever in his career. Obviously, high school, all these guys are superstars, but he's been covered by a true number 1 at both levels. So we'll see what happens here, but I would not have jumped at such a big contract right away.
They do have Odell Beckham, for the record.
They do have Odell Beckham.
They do have Odell Beckham. So maybe
he's a big deal. He makes a real big difference in 2024.
So maybe this is the year Odell really takes off. Maybe he'll make another one-handed catch.
That was so cool.
And he'll be the cover of Madden again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you, Jacob, on it's a little weird what the Dolphins are doing. The Eagles did the exact same thing. They're both kind of taking those leaps of faith in terms of new ways to construct your roster and what you do, what do you prioritize for your roster. I think the approach is quite simple. You either pay one side of the football and draft the other, or you're just paying your best players. I think that both teams decided that they would just focus really heavily on the money on one side and then draft the other side. I think that's kind of what the Bengals have tried to do as of late, up until this year, really. But the idea that, you're paying all your offensive guys, you just draft defense, get young guys on your defense, I don't think that's a bad approach. Could the Bengals do that? I don't think so. It's just the way that the Bengals negotiate contracts and how that all plays out. Their track record and draft picks has not been great. It's been solid, I would say, in the Zach Taylor era, but it's not been hit. You're not batting 1,000, right? You're still, I would say, an average league player in terms of how you're drafting. So how this affects T. Higgins, I mean, he's going to get a massive contract somewhere, right? We all know that at this point. I think we can all bury the hatchet that T. Higgins is no longer going to be on this team. However, I would say that this kind of could lead into something a little more bigger, Jamar Chase's contract, because that was a lot of money guaranteed to Jalen Waddle, and it's Jalen Waddle. It's not we're not talking about Tyreek Hill. We're not talking about the top 5 best receivers. We're not talking about Justin Jefferson. We're talking about a guy who's the second receiver on an NFL team, and he got $76 million guaranteed for 3 years. Bengals don't like to give contracts where they guarantee a lot of money past the first year, and even the guys that they do give those types of contracts to that give more than just the first year, it's usually only the second year. They don't like to go past that. Jamar Chase is probably going to get a contract somewhere where it's going to be 5 years, 3.5, 4 of those years are guaranteed. That's just where the NFL's going.
100%.
And he'll blow A.J. Brown out of the water by a couple million if I had to guess. I mean, A.J. Brown's getting 32 right now. I think the floor for Jamar's extension is going to be 35.
Yeah, like he and Justin Jefferson are pretty much shoo-ins to be the top 2, I would say.
Yeah, I would
top
agree.
2 contract.
And whichever one gets signed second will be the highest paid.
Yes.
So
Right.
that's the biggest thing I'm looking at for Jamar right now. And number one, why would he ever agree to sign a contract before Justin Jefferson? He has a whole extra year on his rookie contract that he can play out. He gains nothing from signing a contract before Justin Jefferson other than losing out on a couple $1 million. If he really wants to keep T in Cincinnati, maybe that's what he does. But yeah, I think Jamar would rather play out this rookie contract, even play into his 5th-year option, let Justin Jefferson get settled, whether in Minnesota or elsewhere. and then he'll sign a contract probably just marginally better for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think are the Bengals that team though? I guess is what I'm going to argue. Is that going to be what the Bengals do? Are they going to give more than 2 or 3 years of guaranteed money to Jamar Chase? I certainly hope so. They did it with AJ Green. They've done it with their top players, right?
We've historically, as cheap of an organization as we have been, we've historically played quarterbacks and wide receivers. And that's part of why I was never worried about Joe Burrow. We made Andy Dalton the top 10 paid quarterback in the league because he kept winning division championships. And then we made Joe Burrow the highest paid quarterback in the history of the league because he got us to the Super Bowl and back-to-back AFC championships. So I think Jamar Chase is – I'm not going to break a sweat about Jamar Chase in this contract until we're about halfway through the offseason after his fifth-year option. I don't – if anything, he's just going to dribble out the clock and hope other guys keep getting massive contracts to drive the number up. And that's nothing against the Bengals. That's just a guy looking out for his own pockets, which I'll never hold against a player.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you've said so far. Speaking outside of the Bengals, another team also signed a receiver, Juwan Jennings, 49ers.
Just like everyone predicted.
Yeah, third and
Yeah, for sure. Everyone predicted
49ers
that. Not
extend a
Debo,
wide receiver.
not Ayuk. What does this kind of mean for – like there's two different trends kind of being set, in my opinion. There's the one where you're paying all your receivers, your top-tier receivers, your A.J. Browns and Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle now. The other side is we're not going to pay any of them. We're going to ship them off. We're going to trade them, which is kind of what the 49ers are doing right now. You could argue that the Chiefs just did that with Tyreek Hill. They didn't want to pay him, so they traded him, got a good compensation package for it, and look where they're at right now. You could argue that the Packers did that with Devontae Smith. So, I mean, I kind of when you're looking at the league and you're trying to determine how to construct your roster, do we think one side is making a mistake or the other? Do you think that the 49ers are making a mistake by just signing Juwan Jennings to a decent contract? I didn't look at the exact numbers, but they were relatively decent numbers for a
2
third
years,
stringers.
15 mil, 10 guaranteed.
Yeah, like that is a great deal for them.
For the Niners, I think this just kind of emphasizes the way where I've stood on their wide receiver room the whole offseason. I think they're trading Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo is going to be out of San Francisco. I think they're going to extend Brandon Ayuk probably before the start of the season, if I had to guess. Yep. I think they're going to move Deebo somewhere else. You drafted Ricky Pearsall, who's a great slot receiver. He can take over a lot of those underneath routes that Deebo's known for, what Deebo runs. Deebo, as great as he is in his position, he can't line up on the outside. He simply does not win on the outside, and Brandon Ayuk does, and he's proven that for at least the last 2 years. Obviously, you wish he would have broken out a little earlier into his rookie contract so you could have seen more, but these last 2 years, to me, hammer home that he's the number one receiver on that team, and them putting money into Juwan Jennings and first-round draft capital into Ricky Pearsall makes me think that they're going to put their bank account behind the true number one, the true outside receiver in Ayuk, trade Deebo Samuel, get some draft picks, get some other compensation to probably cheapen up that roster, because it's not just Brandon Ayuk who needs a new contract. I mean, Brock Purdy's coming up in 2 years. You have a lot of that defense who, number one, you've already paid, and the other half of it who's going to need big contracts because they have stars all over that defense. So I think it's going to come, when push comes to shove here at some point, something's going to have to fall, and if I had to guess, I think Deebo's going to be the one on the move.
Yeah, not to mention, on top of that, Nico Collins, too. We didn't even touch on that. When the Amon-Ra St. Brown contract happened, we talked about that on the show. But right now, the league is very, I would say, split on what the right decision is. Do you pay those guys or do you not, and you trade them and get more compensation for them? I kind of agree with you on what the 49ers should do. I've always said that Deebo was one of the best gadget guys in the NFL. I think he's a good receiver. I never thought he was a true number one, and I got killed for that on this show. But they kind of proved my point by, like you said, they draft Ricky Pearsall. That's going to be their slot guy moving forward. Deebo might garner more value maybe because people think he's better than Ayuk, but I think Ayuk is a true number one receiver. But we won't get too deep into that. I just find it interesting, though. Like, as of this moment, the league is very split on what to do at the receiver position. And I think Reed and I have both had this same conversation about receivers and the future of receivers. They're starting to turn into running backs where they're kind of a dime a dozen. You're going to get a good one in the draft at some point every year. You just, got to be really good at drafting them. And lucky for the Bengals, they draft really well at receiver. So hopefully that pans out for them. Speaking of the Bengals, they have $23 million in cap space. Jacob, you look at the roster. We've talked about it yesterday, how corner might be a position of need. What are you doing with the extra, I think it's roughly $13 million. The other 10 is going to go to the rookies.
Right.
But what are you going to do with that extra cap space?
Realistically, I think they're going to do nothing. I think they'll go into the season with probably $7 to $8 million in cap space. Maybe we get a Jamar extension. Maybe we get a T. Higgins restructure like we saw with Chris Jones last year, where he signed a one-year modified franchise tag. But in all honesty, I think the Bengals are going to go into the season with a couple $1 million in cap space to play with for, if you have injuries or anything like that happens. But there's one name out there, and really only one name out there, that I think really moves the needle free agent-wise for the Bengals, and it's Xavier Howard. We talked about him when we talked about the Dolphins here a couple minutes ago. He was an all-pro corner for most of his career in Miami. Obviously has taken a step back the last few years as he crossed that age 30 barrier. But he's a good player. He's a really good player. He's still a very solid corner in this league, and we talked about how worried we are about A, the depth of his secondary, and B, the second cornerback. We hope DJ Turner takes that jump, but you never know if they're going to. I think Xavier Howard and Cam Taylor-Britt would right away be one of the best corner duos in the entire AFC, maybe even the entire NFL. We've never seen Xavier Howard as a number 2 corner. He's been number 1 his entire career. Last year with Jalen Ramsey was the first time we really saw that, and he got hurt for the first half of the year. So I think he'd be great. He came out and he openly said that he'd take a pay cut to play for a contender, that he wants to win, that he doesn't care about getting top cornerback money. So, that would be a dream come true for me to get Xavier Howard in stripes.
I agree with you, Jacob. I think Xavier Howard is the best option available at corner. I would say the second best is maybe Adoree Jackson. Depending on what you feel like you want in a corner. I think they kind of have 2 different play styles. I think he brings leadership too in a room that's very young. So I
confirmed bad guy Xavier Howard. So I don't know how much leadership.
Football leadership,
Good.
not a character leadership there. So I think there is some money to still make this team better. I thought maybe we would see some guards potentially in the fold here. Dalton Renzer already got re-signed to the Vikings. That was going to be my guy. I think that happened yesterday, very recently. So I think that has kind of went out the window too. There's not very many guys out there I really want to bring in that we don't already have in the building. But Xavier Howard to me is a guy, if you've got the money, might as well. And if you're not doing that, I expect them to try their darndest to get an extension done with Chase. $13 million, don't let that sit and waste. You only get, $10 million to roll over? So you got to figure out what you're going to do with that extra money. Go get more depth somewhere. Just make this team better tomorrow, not a week before the season starts. Get them some time to get adapted into our system.
I do think if we see that cap space spent on a contract extension, it'll be days, weeks, if not hours before the season starts. I think if that's where they're going with the money, it's going to be last minute. Right
hours before Thursday Night Football?
Hours before Thursday Night Football. We've seen it before. We'll do it again. So, yeah, I think it's going to, in all honesty, it's going to sit there. And I know a lot of fans will be mad at that and point to, the Super Bowl windows not open forever. Why are we sitting on millions of dollars when we could make a run? You're probably spending it on depth pieces and stuff like that. If you're not signing in Xavier Howard, you're probably spending it on depth pieces, which is always great and fine or whatever. But you can do that when injuries pop up during the season. There's not enough big name guys out there that I think really make a drastic difference that I'm going to be too upset if they have $8 million in week 1.
Yeah, there's also roster cuts too. They're probably waiting on that.
Absolutely. There's always a couple guys you don't expect that get cut.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then you just bring them in, and boom, you got someone you didn't think you were going to have later on.
What I took away from that conversation is that the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. That's what I heard and all of that. Thank you, guys. That's been our show. Chatterbox Sports off the bench. I'm going to stutter through it. Presented by United Dairy Farmers. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm hoping tomorrow I will be better than I was today. Thank you. Shout out to Jacob, Jimmy, and Casey for carrying this show. Jacob will not be here tomorrow. I will be. Jimmy will be. Casey will be. Maybe Trace will be. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it'll just be us three. Again, hopefully I'm better tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in on the radio. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. It truly does mean the world to us. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.